ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል? እንግዲህ የዛሬ ፕሮግራማችን የሚመለከተው ቢዝነስን በተመለከተና ስለ ፋይናንሻል ሊትረሲ ማለት ስለ ስሞል ቢዝነስ ኢንቨስትመንት ካፒታል የመሳሰሉትን ወጣቶች በተለይ በቢዝነስ ላይ መሰማራት ለሚፈልጉ ወጣቶች ያለውን entrepreneurship journey ይሉታል እዚህ ሀገር ያንን የጉዞ መንገዱን ሂደቱን ምን ነገር ቢያስቡ ጥሩ ነው የሚለውን ሐሳብ አንስተን እንነጋገራለን። እንደዚሁም ደግሞ ስለ ገንዘብ ማወቅና ስለ ገንዘብ አያያዝ መማር ልጆቻችንን ገና ከልጅነታቸው ጀምሮ ምን ቢያውቁ ጥሩ ነው የሚለውን ሐሳብ መጽሐፍ በዚህ ቦታ ላይ የጻፈ እንግዳ አስተዋውቃችኋለሁ። እንግዲህ ሁለቱም እንግዶቼ ዛሬ ለኢትዮጵያውያንና ኤርትራውያን ቤተሰቦች እዚህ ሀገር አሜሪካን ሀገርና ካናዳ የተወለዱ ወጣቶች ናቸው። ስለዚህ አማርኛ ስለማይናገሩ ቆይታችን በሙሉ የምናደርገው በእንግሊዝኛ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። እስቲ እንግዶቼን ላስተዋውቃችሁና ወደ ፕሮግራማችን እንገባለን ማለት ነው። የመጀመሪያ እንግዳዬ እንግዲህ በስቱዲያችን Hi Nate.
Hi Helen, how are you?
Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Like I told you, one of my favorite cities. It's wonderful to have you back on the Helen Show. Nate is a college professor at Concordia University in Texas. You're a filmmaker. You host the television program. You're an entrepreneur. You are in the space of culture, content, commerce, in the community to empower and inspire young people. And you've been in this space for quite some time. It's such a pleasure to have you back here.
Thank you so much for having me.
With us. So you're here now because you just completed a brand new docu-series called Black Startup Series. I've seen what you've done. It's amazing. It's inspiring to see people of color talking about their business, their entrepreneurship journey, how they started, some of the challenges, the obstacles, some of the triumphs, you know, where they're heading. I think stories encourage people, stories uplift and inspire people. So it's great that you started this. So I'm going to ask you, what prompted you to do this docu-series?
Yes, absolutely. So the Black Startup Series, in essence, is a 3-part documentary series that spotlights startup stories of successful Black-owned business founders. As an entrepreneur and filmmaker, I've had the opportunity to travel the world. You know, I've been to different parts of Ethiopia, Middle East, different areas. And one thing that I found very interesting was that there is a surplus of talent, but there is scarce access to opportunity. So in essence, talent is universal, but the access to opportunity is not. So what I ventured out to do with this new documentary series was provide an access of diverse number of stories of representation that we can see ourselves in within our community. And also provide some helpful resources and tools that focus on financial literacy along the way.
That's wonderful. So in addition to being a professor, you're an entrepreneur yourself. So I know you have your own journey. So tell me about it. Like, what business are you in? How has that journey been for you as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. So I opened up a new business in 2020 called Ground Zero Coffee.
Okay.
The initial start for the business was for it to be a brick and mortar coffee shop, and I was going to be a passive investor. But due to COVID-19 and the pandemic, things changed quick. So I went from a brick and mortar coffee shop to being a click and order coffee shop where we started selling coffee online to individuals that were just in quarantine. So we just started doing that, and we started Ground Zero Coffee podcast to provide educational tools for families that were in quarantine so that it can help them with career, professional development, and things of that nature. And then in that process, we started scaling and going from business to customer to business to business. So we entered into Walmart Marketplace and then started servicing our coffee to hotels, coffee shops, office spaces when they actually did open up again, and it just took off from there. And now our coffee company is funding and fueling a lot of our community-based initiatives, hence the Black Startup Series as well. So
that's fantastic. Good for you. So what did you wish, you know, I mean, because entrepreneurship, being a small business owner, for everybody, it's a different journey. We all, you know, whether you, like you said, it's a coffee business or whether you have like an innovative tech-related industry, everybody's journey is different. What did you wish you knew? I mean, as a professor, as a business professor, as a marketing and business, you give these business courses. Intellectually, you're going to know a lot of these concepts. But being an entrepreneur, the groundwork that you do every day is a little bit different than teaching a class. So what did you wish you knew before you started your own business?
A lot. Helen,
sure.
a lot. I
Yeah.
think financial literacy, I think the best advice I could ever tell anyone is learn how to create a budget for yourself. And one thing I heard long ago is that you have to see your life as a business, and you are the CEO of your life. So when you understand to be able to how to manage your life, you'll manage business. And we have to be able to understand how to budget. And I think within our community, when we think of budget, I think it can be very, restrictive and about self-deprivation. But I think a budget is a mirror of your values. You put your money where your values are.
Absolutely.
If you really think about it. So a budget really is a reflection of your current understanding and relationship with finance. So if you understand and have that heightened awareness of kind of where your money is going, you can at least be a little more proactive with certain strategies and skill sets to really help you go in the direction that you're looking to kind of grow into. So I think understanding how to create a budget within a business is important. And I think as entrepreneurs, I read in a book that it says that to start a business, it takes more courage than knowledge. To scale a business, it takes more knowledge than courage, right?
That's true.
All of us want to start a business at one time. We're all excited, but then comes turbulence, economic turbulence, and moments when we have to pivot and figure things out. And we sometimes as a community are not privy to access to educational resources, tools. So there's just so much I would have learned, but at the same time, I wouldn't change anything about my journey because I think I've learned through failure. I've learned through some of these challenges. And now I'm in a place where I can speak directly to those moments. And it comes from a real place. So I enjoyed those challenges. But if I can give any advice, I think some foundational tips would be things of that nature.
The budget. So know where your money goes. Yeah. And I think even personally myself, I think until you look at your bank statement.
Yes.
And you see, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was spending this much money, especially when you're young, the money that you spend getting even your Starbucks coffee every single day, you don't know where the money goes. And that's sort of like a blueprint when you start a business, like how you spend your money sometimes might mirror that, even though it looks, it may not be the same exact thing, right? Okay, so what kind of individuals are you hoping to highlight on this docuseries that you're working on? You've finished.
Yeah, so we have a 3-part documentary series, and each of those 3 parts features a successful Black startup business owner in 3 different industries. Okay. So episode 1 features Paola Mate, and she's a Haitian American fashion designer, business owner that moved from Haiti to New Jersey and then New York, and she was working as a manager for different restaurants and decided she wanted to develop her own luxury head wrap brand.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we see head wraps, even within our culture, so she decided to make it a luxury brand. So now she's in Austin, she has her own storefront, and she hosts head wrap workshops, which we got a chance to be a part of. I had some friends, ladies that came in, and they were some models, and they had champagne, they had, the head wrap workshops. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun, and we got a chance to learn a lot about her journey in building and scaling that business. And then the second person within our documentary series is Kobla Tate. Kobla is an amazing good friend of mine. He's CEO and founder of Break the Box. And Break the Box is a home ownership empowerment program that provides Black professionals and minority communities the opportunity to get into home ownership. So they give a boot camp or apprenticeship where you're able to stay inside of a home and get educated for low market value in order to save, be educated, and understand your relationship with finance. And they do such a great job with working within the community to get more people into homes. So that's a second individual. And then the third...
Is that a not-for-profit or is that a for-profit company?
It's both. It's both. Yeah. So he invests, the company is an opportunity zone fund, and opportunity zones are kind of these areas
underserved areas.
Underserved areas, yeah. So he utilizes that and has a nonprofit and a business within that, a for-profit business. So that's the second person. Okay. And then the third individual is JP, and he started his own JP's Pancake Company. And it's right? We all love pancakes. So, and he started the first gourmet pancake dessert shop in Texas now. So, and it's delicious, Helen. I think you would love it.
I'm just picturing already in my mind. Yes.
Yeah. So all great people that we learn about their business development and business success. Yeah. And I hope that we all are able to see a piece of ourselves within their stories.
Have you noticed, so all these 3 individuals, are they from immigrant background or are they, it's a mix?
It's a mix. I believe Two of them are, 2 out of the 3.
Okay.
Yeah, and then one is second generation.
Did you see, as you're interviewing them and working with them, is there a different set of challenge for immigrant entrepreneurs versus those that were born and raised in this country, maybe those that know about resources and opportunities that are available here?
I think so. I think the immigrant experience and then the person that's first born in this in America has very vastly different experiences.
Yeah.
You have first that immigrant experience is kind of just learning and built from survival, right? And they're able to kind of garner all the different types of resources that they can. But that second generation that's been born here, they're kind of a little more acclimated through the school system. We've been provided with more knowledge to resources, so we are a little better at being a bit more innovative and a little more with identifying opportunities within the market space and giving ourselves grace to take more of those type of risks, where one generation is a little more about survival, and then the next generation, because survival is met and there's a certain level of security, we're able to be a bit more innovative. So I see there's a little bit of difference how we approach business and just life in general.
Okay. So who's your target audience?
Yes.
For this series?
Yes. So our target audience are people like us, Black professionals, startup founders that are looking to scale, people that are looking to kind of that have ideas and they just don't have the direction or the knowledge on how to launch their first business or how to kind of grow within financial literacy and become a little more financial literate. So our goal is to kind of focus on people that are kind of looking to take that next step, within their career or within their business, and provide them with the resources, the tools, and even the stories to give them a bit of encouragement and inspiration of what they can be able to amount to.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back and continue our discussion. We'll be back. So we're back. We're continuing our conversation with Nate Araya, new docuseries, Black Startup series. So what do you think? I mean, you're a professor, you teach business courses. What do you think is the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs, especially Black and brown people here in the U.S., face when they're thinking about starting a business or they are in a business? What are some of the challenges that they encounter?
Yeah, I think there's a big gap within access, whether it's access to capital, access to educational resources for scaling. I think there's a huge gap within that, and I think that's where I see this film kind of meeting that gap to provide a bit of awareness of how these individuals have overcome challenges and ways that they were able to kind of really succeed through that process. And I think there's just so many different types of resources that are available that we just as a community are just not very much aware of. So I think being aware of the resources that are available to kind of scale, for example, there are accelerator programs. One of my favorite accelerator programs is Y Combinator, and Y Combinator provides everything.
Y
Combinator.
Combinator, okay.
Yeah, so they can provide lawyer services, they can provide financial resources, for you. So it's a great accelerator program, and there's tons around the nation that can really help outside of the VC and PE culture. There's also, I think accelerator programs and grants, SBA.
Yeah, those are tricky to navigate, but it's not for the faint heart, but it is there, right? As I was getting ready for this program, I looked at Black entrepreneurs here, or even in Ethiopia or anywhere else in the world. Here in the U.S., what I saw as statistics is that Black entrepreneurs typically receive less than 2% of all VC dollars, and Black women receive even less than 1%. So venture capital, and when we're talking about private equity, it's not accessible to immigrants or Black folks here in the U.S., readily available. And so what do you think, or what opportunities should people be looking for, some creative ways for them to access capital when they start a business or even when they're trying to scale a business? What are some creative ways outside of that space? Of course, we want them to look into that, but it's really not as realistic for, based on history and research here. So what are some creative ways that they can look into for capital?
That's a really good question. I think one aspect is utilizing the community and the network around you. So crowdfunding is not a stranger for like how we've been able to kind of get projects done. So I think crowdfunding is huge. I think being able to look at ways that you can, get a great team together that are after the same vision. So sweat equity, like it's a lot of it's just bootstraps sometimes, and you have to really prove value in order to get capital and support. Accelerator programs, as I mentioned earlier, is another big thing that you can kind of utilize in your, not just getting more knowledge about the business development aspect, but you're also getting connections and people that are kind of really help you within that network to kind of, provide pitch decks and things of that nature to kind of get funding. But there's many different ways, and I don't think there's just one linear approach in order of how to kind of gain capital. I think it starts with self-awareness, and it starts with like you understanding your own business and the market. What's your market size? What does scaling look like? How do you, what is sustainability for growth? And I think that happens at the ideation stage of business development.
Right.
You doing your due diligence with research and figuring out, okay, is what I'm starting, can it really withstand, like in scale? And can it be liquidated? Can it be, can it go IPO?
Right.
A lot of this, sometimes we just don't include that within the ideation stage of our business development and strategy, and we sell ourselves short because we just don't know what we have not been able to see or learn.
Right, and business is always solving a problem. Absolutely. Right? It's all about, and sometimes, when we look at, our viewers in Ethiopia, there's so much need out there, and it's just, you looking at a problem within your community, within your neighborhood, within your influence space. Okay, what can I do to solve this problem? Right. And so that's your idea. Wherever the idea comes from is from that. And also, I'm a huge fan of business podcasts, and I think for young entrepreneurs, read as much as you can. Absolutely. There's nothing like researching. There's nothing like reading. And even if we're not talking about these mundane types of research, but what did other businesses similar to what I'm thinking about doing, what have they done? How did they manage, some of the challenges that they have faced? I listen to a ton of podcasts online because, hey, most of them are free actually. Right. So people can learn. I don't know, I'm sure as a business educator, you refer people to those kinds of resources, I'm assuming, right? Yes,
there's just so many different podcasts and books. How I Built This on NPR is a great blueprint.
Let me tell you, I've listened to so many stories and just inspiring entrepreneurs that tell you the nitty gritty of how, from starting their business, how they got their funding, how they invested their own money, how they failed miserably, how they got up. That's just incredible.
That's very useful. I also listened to this great podcast that turned into a media company called Earn Your Leisure. African American, two gentlemen. One worked in education in the public school district, and then the other one was a financial advisor. And they're just two friends that got together to start doing these educational financial podcasts.
What is it called again?
Earn Your Leisure.
Earn Your Leisure.
They talk about everything from investing to real estate, stocks, entrepreneurship, and they've been a big resource for me. I watch their Market Mondays every single Monday. They go live on YouTube.
Fantastic.
And so I recommend anyone, if they're looking to kind of get a little more financial literate, watch Earn Your Leisure Market Mondays on YouTube and just kind of Google and search it. And these guys are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's like going to school. It's like getting your MBA from these people. What are some ways that people get involved in what you're doing? And what do you hope to continue to do in this space of entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. So I think, what I've been able to do at this point is develop business that can fund and fuel a lot of these community-based initiatives. So right now I'm looking at opportunities for people to kind of get involved. And the way that they can get involved is by going to my website at natearaya.com/Black Startup Series. So if you go to the website, you'll also see a tab. You'll have all the information and then a tab that says join the Black Startup and Career Network. So you'll join that, and then from there we're able to identify again who you are, where you're coming from, what your needs are, what your profession is, and we can be able to provide financial literacy, career development, different courses. We can provide networking events just to be able to best serve our community. So right now we're in that space of kind of building that network out. So I encourage everyone that's watching to do that. And then also if you want to be able to watch the Black Startup series.
Yes, where can they watch it?
Yes. So it's going to be released after this month episodically. So we'll release it by episodes. And if they want to host, you can also host a Black Startup series.
What does that mean?
What?
Hosting mean like a watch network? Is that what it is?
You can do a watch party with your corporate organization or your college. And I will come out and I'll speak as well. And I partner with financial advisors that can be able to host different types of financial workshops with the film. So you can host a screening if you want. You can watch it online after February. It'll probably be released episodically in March. And
where would it be released?
It's going to be probably released on YouTube right now. Yeah.
It's brilliant because anyone can access that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want to continue to do more of these? What's happening after this?
I do. So me and my good friend Sam, Evo's in Design Studio, partnered and we decided let's put out 3 solid episodes just based off our own funding and belief. And we did that. So now we have a blueprint and a framework that's kind of serves as a pilot. So right now we're kind of like shopping and looking at opportunities to work with media companies that would like to continue helping us produce more content of diverse stories of Black entrepreneurs. And so our goal is to provide just more stories that people can see themselves in, and that would be the goal, to keep going.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations, Nate.
Thank you.
Great work that you're doing, and I appreciate you coming to our studio and telling us about it.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
ዘመናዊ አፓርትመንት እንዲኖሩ ይፈልጋሉ? ሆሴ ሪል ስቴት ቦሌ መድኃኔዓለም ቴሌ ፊት ለፊት ባለ 23 ወለል ቅንጡ አፓርትመንት ይዘን እየመጣን ነው። ሽያጭ ጀምረናል። በ6966 ይደውሉ። ሆሴ ሪል ስቴት ከቃልም በላይ።
We're back. We're continuing our conversation. I have a new guest to introduce you, Henok Araya. Henok is an author and an investor. So it's never too early to teach our children the important lessons about financial management. And there's a very simple and fun way to present financial education to our children through the book that Henok has written called 3 Pointers to Wealth. For Henok, he combines his love of basketball with the passion that he has for financial literacy in this book. The main character in this book is called Baller Boy. Do I have it right, Henok?
Yes.
Yeah, this is...
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you. So your book introduces children to various financial concepts. And I just wish my kids were much younger for me to introduce a book like this to them. What prompted you to write this book for children?
Around 2015, I really started to dive deeper into investing. And it was around that time when I realized that if I had just learned some of the more fundamental concepts and principles of finance at an earlier time, then I would have been far better off than where I am today. Because I realized that the most crucial component to investing is time.
That's true. That is true. What was your understanding about money growing up?
Well, I didn't really understand money all that well. I think for me, what I knew fundamentally about money was that you could earn it if you had exchanged hard labor and your time and energy for a certain amount of dollars, but I didn't realize how it was controlled. I didn't realize the mechanics of it. I just knew that if you were to exchange time and effort, then you could receive a note, and in that note there was a certain value associated to it.
Okay. Have you always wanted to be in the financial industry and investments and banking? Has this always been your dream, or this is something that you developed over the years?
Definitely something I've developed over the recent years. I've always imagined I would be a basketball player, and that's what I did growing up. And the Baller Boy, the main character in the book, sort of represents who I was as a child. And so no, I didn't know as of maybe the last 7-8 years that I was going to become or get into the financial space and the investment space. But we're here now.
So what did you love about that industry? If that was not something that you were really interested in, was there someone around you that was in investment or in stocks and banking, or did you see someone do it, or was it somehow a little bit similar to the game of basketball and you thought, oh my gosh, maybe this is something that I can, get into? Was there someone that inspired you? How did that come about?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I realized when I was in business school at the university that there was a lot of similar characteristics between the business world and the sports world. One of the biggest components or the biggest element is the competitive nature of the market. You could look at different business companies and how they operate and manage their businesses. And there's a lot of similar traits. So I figured that transition, that itch for competitiveness, innovation, creativity, I felt like that transition would have been a lot more seamless and would have made a lot more sense for me within the second act of my career.
I think the most financial education most of us get growing up from our parents is, for them telling us, hey, money doesn't go in trees, okay? Don't spend this money. It's just, more either about the scarcity of it or either we have it or we don't have it. I think most parents don't even want to burden their children, or they look at it as if I talk about money, I'm going to burden my children. And so they don't. What are your thoughts about financial education for children?
Well, I think the earlier the better. I think what more people are starting to realize, the masses are starting to wake up to, is realizing that understanding finance is a life skill. And financial literacy is not something that has been adopted by the school systems yet. It's slowly starting to get into the curriculums. But I think when you get to a certain age of adulthood, you realize, oh, wow, if I had learned some of these principles early on, I would have definitely maybe had a much easier time dealing with my finances and whatnot today. So it's a life skill, and I think life skills should be taught at the seed level. It gives you a much better head start, so you don't have to deal with a lot of the issues that you're probably dealing with today. And a lot of people don't realize, but going back to the saying that money doesn't grow on trees, because my parents said the same thing. And it's somewhat true. I mean, if you look at cash and paper, there's an element of tree made to it, which is the irony of it, the saying.
That's true.
But I think what people forget is that, bills are associated with stress, and the better you can get a better handle on bills, the less stress you put on your life, and the less stress leads to less diseases and illnesses, and it's a better quality and condition of life.
Absolutely. I agree with that. You raise about 3 concepts or 3 lessons in your book. Let's highlight each one of them. One is saving, investing, and then expenses. So can we start with savings? What do you highlight in your book about savings?
Saving is not going to make you wealthy by any means. It's not a vehicle that's meant for that. It's more so of a cushion of protection. It's kind of like an umbrella on a rainy day. There's going to be rainy days. We don't know when the rain is coming. We don't know how long the rain will be here, but we know that the rain is coming. And so it's important to have a savings, emergency funds, and a cushion that can protect you against the uncertainties of the future. And the earlier these children learn that, the better, for sure.
So what do you teach them about investing?
The most important concept that I try to convey and get across to the kids with investing is that investing is good for the future you, and you want to be good to the future you. So if Baller Boy gets $10, you want to make sure you put a portion away for savings, and you want to use a portion to grow, so that by the time it gets to the future you, which the future you will come, you want to make sure that the past you took care of the future you by investing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it does. How about expenses? How should we teach our children about expenses?
Yeah, I think Nate touched on budgeting and how important that is, and just understanding that whatever amount of income that comes to you, you want to make sure that you divide it properly so that you pay yourself first, you put away for savings, you invest some, and you also take care of your expenses. You don't want those to linger because they will pile up.
Of course, of course. And do you think children grasp these concepts easily? And you know, when you talk to them in these ways, do you think that they actually are able to grasp most of these concepts?
Yeah, from what it's looking like, yes. I think children are very malleable. They're very intelligent. They're like sponges, and it seems as though the concepts that they're grasping, especially because the way I wrote the book was in a sort of easily digestible manner, so that the kids can really understand in sort of plain basic terms. But I don't try to. I think the kids are very smart, and from what the feedback I've been getting so far, they've been grasping and comprehending a lot of the principles and concepts.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think parents should start? If they're, let's say, is there a certain specific age group that parents should start having this conversation, or is it as early as possible? Do you have an age range that you think this book would be appropriate?
Yeah, I think as soon as expenses start. I mean,
okay.
I think the earliest the better. The sooner that children can become conscious of the importance of money and the language of money, and how it's sort of like the blood flow of the economy and society and communities. I think it's important that they understand that life skill as soon as possible.
So I'm going to come to you personally, Henok. So do you have any, what's your money principle or your personal financial principle? Is there something that you follow? Like, okay, this is something that I've learned, or this is something that I wish I had learned early on that I look, okay, this is my personal principle when it comes to money?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is it's better to work with money than for money to work against you. And so the quicker you're able to learn the language of money, I think it's better. Within the society and the economy that we're in, it's better to learn it as soon as possible. When I was young, I've made so many mistakes. And it's a lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it is because we just didn't get the education growing up. We didn't have access to those resources. But a lot of people didn't, and a lot of people are in this situation. So I think the most important part is to just start now. There's no better time than now. And so the sooner you start, the better. Another one of my mistakes was being a young college university student. I wasn't aware of how compound interest can work against me. And the credit cards do a really good job. The credit card companies do a really good job of using that magic of compound interest to work against people who are unaware or uneducated on the matter. So it's better to have compound interest work for you as opposed to against you.
That's great. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and continue our conversation. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back. We're back. We're continuing our conversation with Henok. You have a challenge in your book. Can you tell us about that challenge that you have for children, and what are you hoping people learn from that challenge?
Yeah, the challenge is to apply compound interest and using and understanding the principles and the fundamentals and taking a portion of the money that they earned, whether it be allowance or whatnot, and start getting into the habit of using those principles and applying those principles early on. Because the sooner that they can build that foundation and the fundamentals and the habits, better habits, finance habits, then the better they'll be in the long run.
So what can you, for our viewers, since majority of our viewers are, not necessarily here in the US and they're around the world, if you would explain, what compound interest is for our viewers, that would be great, and how we can talk about that to our children, and what concept can our children understand what compound interest means?
Yeah, so compound interest is this mathematical equation where, and I'll use an example of sort of a pain point because I'm sure a lot of people can relate. You get a credit card and you spend an X amount of dollars, or you have an X amount of dollars on that credit card. And you thought your limit was, let's say, $1,000 on that credit card. And so you used a certain amount, and they tell you when you sign the credit card that the interest is about, let's say, 10%. But what they don't tell you is that amount, that 10% that's added to the principal every month increases the principal amount, and now that compound starts to have its sort of avalanche effect. And before you know it, you signed up for $1,000 credit card, but you're ending up paying $6,000, $7,000 for this credit card. And so when you understand the power of that and how that works, and realize that you can use that to your advantage, not just to your disadvantage, then things start to click, and you're like, oh wow, I can use this element towards investing,
Exactly.
and it'll have that same growth effect on my portfolio or on my investment accounts or assets or whatnot.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I wanted you to mention that is because if you start investing, there's a huge difference. If you start investing, even, we're not going to get into a lot of details and get into the weeds of it. But if you started investing at 18 years old versus investing at 40 and 50 years old, the disadvantage that you have, I mean, it's incredible. So if you can explain what that looks like so people can understand, and maybe in what, so they can look into it and the research and understand for themselves. But can you just give us an example of, someone that could be investing at 18 versus somebody that's going to be investing at a later age, and the difference in the amount of money that they can have?
Let's say I had a child. The child was, let's say, 11. And I started giving the child allowance for certain chores that they're doing around the house, or certain responsibilities that they're taking care of. That child has the principles and fundamentals of finance learned at that age. If that child, for example, were to start investing in the stock market and invested in a safe, secure investment like an index fund that returns maybe 7 to 8% annually, and if they were to constantly pay into that fund every month from their allowance, compounded at that 7 to 8% return, by the time they get to 18, 19, 20, they could potentially pay off for their own education.
College education, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's just the understanding of how compound interest works in your favor.
Absolutely. And when you start your first job and in your companies offer you your 401ks and all of these other investments, there's a huge difference in what you're able to accomplish if you started out at a young age versus if you started out at later in age. So always think about investment. And I know this book is written for young people, but you're an investment in the investment industry, and people can learn a lot about what it means to be investing at an early age, at the earliest possible age, whether it's parents for their children or young people when they start their career. So think about those terms. So the takeaway for this book, and how people can find your book and where they can find it, if you can talk a little bit about that.
If you go to Amazon.com, if you're in the US, so Amazon.com, and you type in the number 3, pointers, the number 2, wealth, so 3 pointers to wealth. And then if you put in my name as well, Hanok Araya, then a photo of the book should appear. And once you click there, then you'll be able to access the book. It was going for, I think, $28. It's now $17, so it's on sale now. So I don't know how long it'll be on sale, but it's currently on sale for about $17.
Fantastic. And can you tell me what age group that you hope this book would be good for? Because I think it's a fantastic gift for children. So if you can tell me, what age do you recommend for children to be reading this book?
The book's recommendation is anywhere from ages 17 to 14. But with all the books, the feedback that we've been getting from people who have been getting the book, I've had parents at grown ages, adult ages, tell me, they've learned a lot from the concepts of this book. And that was sort of my goal when I wrote it, is I wanted to write it in a rhythmic and enjoyable, creative pattern for the kids to sort of have fun with, because I know that these can be challenging sort of concepts to grasp at an early age. But I wanted to still drive some points across so that anybody can pick this book up at whatever part of your journey that you're starting. You'll be able to find this information useful and applicable right away.
Well, that's wonderful. So what's next for Henok? Is there going to be another series of book that's going to come out in the future? What are you thinking?
Yeah, we're actually working on Baller Girl. So
I was going to ask that. I mean, you left the girls out. What's up with that?
No. Definitely. One of the dedication in this book was to my my nieces and nephews. And I made a promise that I would write Baller Girl for my nieces before the end of this summer. So look out for that. Baller Girl is definitely on the way, and she's coming strong and she's coming fierce.
Oh, good. We love that. Well, thank you, Henok. I appreciate you making the time to talk to us about your book. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me on the show again. Thanks again.
Of course.
It was awesome.
All right. Well, that's it for our program today. We'll see you next week.